Hello and welcome to Soul Talk, where we explore the soul in all things. I'm Nancy, and today I'm joined by Art, Holly, and Leslie to talk about what it's like being a creative instrument of the soul. We'll be seeing creative work by each of us, beginning with a meme by Holly.
A massive shift occurs when we allow the soul to direct our lives. When we learn to listen with the inner ear to its promptings, the personality is transformed into the soul's instrument, and everything becomes possible.
I don't know about you, but I never saw myself as a soul's instrument until later. But I did see myself as an instrument. And I think maybe because it was very obvious, because I started, my first art form was acting. I started acting when I was very young. And we were told that our body and our voice was our instrument. And that's all we had. That's why we had to work on our voice and our body. So I didn't come to visual art until later, but it was very natural for me to see myself as an instrument. And only later did I connect to the soul idea.
Well, I lean a little bit more forward. I see myself as an instrument of the soul, and I pull my work. I like to think I pull my work from that standpoint. I'm always trying to lean into the soul, or paying attention to soul qualities, and then trying to articulate that somehow, no matter what medium I'm really working in.
Oh, I
It's a little different.
understand that. Mm, yeah.
I think the soul is able to apprehend very subtle abstract ideas and to receive impressions perhaps from the spiritual realm. And in the process of the personality and the creative actions of us as artists, artistic people, I think we can help to draw forth those impressions that the soul has from the spiritual realm and help them manifest out in a visual way to be able to share those with others, to help others perhaps understand these subtle abstract ideas that the soul can apprehend from the subtle realm, from the spiritual world. I don't know if you've seen any work by the artist Hilma af Klint.
Oh, yes,
Um,
yes.
I think she's a really interesting example of an artist who's done that. And even though the ideas in her work, excuse me, might be very sort of complex and perhaps a little bit hard to understand, certainly sometimes when you stand in front of one of her paintings, you kind of get this, it does radiate a kind of energy which has an impression on you sort of experience it at a subtle level. So I think that, you know, the soul can use us as an instrument to express these ideas.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Did you ever feel yourself empty, as an empty vessel?
I felt somehow that I was a channel. So,
Channel. Mm.
you know, like I'm getting some impression or of an idea or a concept, like, for example, the fire of love. And in trying to understand that, then I can feel that coming through and ending up on the page as a drawing. And a drawing that I had no idea about how it would look when I started, but something ends up there on the page. And, you know, that's a intuitive creative process, where I think the soul is being creative in trying to express that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I really resonate with that. I agree with those thoughts, Leslie, and that it comes through us. I feel like I am just a a vehicle for that information to come out, and I'm always in myself trying as an artist trying to learn to be able to do it in a better way. But I have really found over the last few, well, decades for sure or more, that it by relying on those ideas, it's like I'm also a musician, so playing the guitar, playing music or writing music is a learned thing. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you're learning. So the creative life is wonderful because you're always learning, and you're always pushing the boundaries to be able to express something. And I personally am very interested in trying to depict things that I believe has the energy you speak of this other person's paintings. And I think what we instill in it is felt by sensitive people. I think it's a reciprocal thing, and a learned thing.
Mm.
With it. And mediums, we have so many different mediums available to us today that it's really quite uh, it's a real joy, let's put it that way, for me to go in the studio and to I feel at times when I'm trying to make decisions or things about a particular painting or even a piece of music, I can feel them put their hand on my shoulder. I get a little chill or a little thing saying to me, this is the right way. Or I try something and it magic seems to work out. It just pulls everything together. That is inspired by.
It sounds exciting. Yeah, yeah. Do you call on any do you call on anything to come into you to help you, or are you aware, are you conscious of anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I call on it. I speak to the paintings. I'm working on these series of paintings now that I speak to them when I come in the studio, which one today, and I will leave the studio
Oh,
thinking about what I want to do tomorrow, possibly, and then I ask it again, and I'm guided. I feel guided. So I don't know how to explain it other than to just say it's for me. It's a natural way of working. I
yeah,
absolutely depend upon that inspiration.
And
yeah.
do you find that there's also at times a temporary suspension of the analytical mind, that at various points you're not thinking, oh, I need to move that red bit a bit further over, and that bit of a composition needs more lines in it. And you might occasionally step back and look at the composition and, look at the language, the visual language. But a lot of the time it's just that faculty is not in operation. It's not in the forefront, that there's a more intuitive, expressive energy flowing that somehow it just emerges through. Is that sort of what you're talking about, Art?
Yes, it is absolutely. It is a. It's hard to define in a way. It's for me. It's a natural, almost like a natural impulse, and I am so loose with uh, my ideas that they form themselves, and I just go with uh, that flow, if you will.
It's
And
such a beautiful process that's so freeing, isn't it?
What happened to me is that this was some years ago when my whole life was painting, and I lived alone, and I would lose myself. I would
Mm.
just lose myself. I would lose track of time. I would paint all night and not be aware. I would um, completely forget myself, forget self. because I was absorbed, completely absorbed, taken over. And that was what I love that feeling. I wanted that feeling. When I was aware of myself doing something, then I didn't feel free at all. The freedom came in losing myself.
Mm.
And the way I put it was I would give myself over to
Mm.
it, to the idea, or if I was painting a person working from a model, I would give myself over to them, to just perceiving them. So it wasn't about me at all. The thing was losing, forgetting myself completely. In fact, going from acting to art was interesting because when you're on the stage, you want to draw people's attention to you. You know, it's, oh, look at me. You know, you want them to look at you because you're speaking and you've got something to say and it's part of the play. But you get used to people looking at you. And then I switched to art, and I didn't want the people I was drawing to look at me. I wanted to look at them. It was a huge switch. And, going out and just looking at people on the street, I became fascinated with looking at others and being invisible. I wanted to be invisible because I draw people. So I wanted to just look at people, and disappear. I wanted to disappear. And if that's freedom, well, that was my freedom, not being there, being with them. And in fact, I never saw so much beauty as when I started studying other people.
And capturing their energies, is that something you've mentioned before? Is that a process that you find you go through when you're
Yeah, but see, we pick each other up all the time. Like right now, we're not physically together in a room, but we're being with each other, in space, in time, and we're picking each other up. We're feeling each other. We're sensitized. Sensing the other person. So I had this friend who used to say to me, he used to say, "I pick you up," and he meant like he knew me, and I was very happy to be with somebody who who felt knew me. I felt known. I didn't know I could do that until I started drawing people. And
Mm.
then I realized I'm picking them up. I'm seeing them because I was being with them. We weren't having a conversation necessarily, but being, I was like being with their energy. They had some people say, oh, we're vibing. It's like, you know, and you're being together and then you're feeling them. And because we're feeling each other all the time,
Mm.
whether we're together or not. Even when you're writing a letter to somebody or an email, you're focusing on them, you're thinking about them, you're getting on their wavelength. And so it's completely, it's a natural thing we have of being together. But I don't know, I'm able to, transfer that into a drawing. It's not something that, um, it's just something that I guess, you know what it is? And you can identify this with your own work. When you want to do something, when you feel something so strongly, you learn how to do it because you love to do it.
Mm.
So becomes sort of a passion to do it well. And
Mm.
so, you know,
What I'm hearing from you perhaps is that's an example of the soul using you as an instrument to capture the energy that the soul, from soul to soul, that we sense between each other, that sort of subtle energetic presence that we have, that we radiate. And from what I understand, that's something that you're tuning into and representing in your portraits, rather than just a photographic representation of somebody's outward appearance, that it's deeper than that.
it is because, you take a photograph, it's one moment in space, one moment in time. I mean, it's flashed, whereas, if you do a painting or a drawing of somebody, it's flickering and, it takes time. And I'm looking at a photograph. I do photographs. paint from photographs, but but because I'm moving in time, um, then I'm seeing them in a different time. Oh, and it's amazing because when you're psychic, when you really look at somebody, you could see them as a child. You could see how they were as a child. You could see how they will look maybe when they're older. You see that because when you go into the soul of a person, you're not seeing them. You go past the personality into the beingness of the person, and because the soul does come out, it's there all the time. If we take the trouble and we have the desire to look that deep, don't you find?
Yeah, it's soul awareness, being aware of that, and it's another tool in our toolbox when you really kind of know that and spend time nurturing those ideas in yourself, it becomes richer. I have uh, the pleasure as well, Nancy, of being on stage and working with bands. I over my career been with several different bands at the front uh, singing, and so. But the medium is different, but it's the same. It's not. It's like for me when I'm on stage, people, yes, they're looking at me, but I'm in a different space. I go to that space where I am expressing those ideas that I try to get across. So when I make a painting, I'm alone in the studio, but those ideas are the same kind of ideas. And so that communicates. So when I'm with the band, it's a conversation. When you're playing with 4 or 5 people, you're basically in a conversation with them. They say something, you say something, it inspires that. I've done a lot of that jazz approach, improvisational stuff. But so in the studio with the paintings, I am improving and I am in that conversation, in my opinion, with the spiritual world, or with spirit, for lack of a better, that is inspiring me to do these certain things. But I'm still in myself trying to say something that is also resonant within my core and for what I really feel, which is the soul, which is like what we're talking about. It's a deeper reservoir of energy that you work with, you know. And I
Oh,
admire,
totally.
and I have worked with both Leslie and Holly, and I admire very much the work they do because they work with digital work as well. I'm sure perhaps they're craftsmen, drawers. I don't know, but their work with the computer is not something that I do. I don't use the computer digitally, but both of these women are quite apt at doing that, making videos and memes
Right,
like we
right.
see, that they're moving that energy around. And I would be amiss to say that I feel sure that they have felt that kind of inspiration, because the things I've seen them do are, they have a divine quality to them. So,
They do. I can't do what they do, what you do. Yeah. I like what you said, moving energy around. That's very true. Yeah. 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 I need the touchy-feely. I need to feel the paper. I need to feel the pen, the paint. I need to move the physical thing around. I need to touch it. I need to have that tactile. I don't do it on the screen. The screen doesn't, but many people do, I know. And I admire you for it.
It is interesting going into the digital realm of expression because my background is very conventional. It's drawing and painting and all those sorts of things. That was my training. But once you get over the hurdle of the technical aspect of, because you've got to get on top of the technical aspect of, say, making the movie, the video, or, using the graphic design tools and so on. Look, there's the cat. You know, because, you know, that can be a distraction if you can't get that, you know, understand that and do that. But with making the little videos, it's lovely because you've got the moving image, and you can have text as well, but then you can also add music. It's like all these layers of expression, and it's sort of, and I think people are so visually literate and digitally literate these days that they're very receptive to messages coming through that medium. But it's still a way, it's still the same process where you start with the ideas that you want to get across, and then you just start looking for stuff, you find stuff that you can use, or you get into Photoshop and manipulate something and then send it back to the movie making software. And then it just kind of, you know, organically emerges. So there is a more heavy reliance on the technical aspect, but it's still the same intuitive creative process, and it's still the soul directing, in the sense of wanting to achieve that, encapsulate the idea and send that idea out there. So it's still similar, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we're all, what we're doing is we're trying to communicate an idea, a feeling, a sensation, a beingness. What we're doing is we're talking about the world, we're sharing ourselves, and just looking for whatever way we can do it.
Yeah, it's just I totally agree with you, Leslie. It's a different toolbox. You guys, you're using different tools, but as you're saying, Nancy, we're all trying to express something. We're trying to, and that's why I say, like, bare our souls. We're opening it up and trying to, for lack of a better term. And one of my favorite artist, a painter that transformed, started working on the iPad, was David Hockney. I don't know if you know his work, but he's a painter, beautiful painter, very, very simplistic, open paintings. But he was ill at some point and couldn't be painting. And so he started working with the iPad. And I have seen some of his iPad, and he's just using those tools, same paintbrush, identifies the tools. Fabulous, really quite beautiful, very, very different than the paintings, but in the same, and if you see enough of them, you know immediately that it's a David Hockney. So he's just used that toolbox, you know, so. Yeah,
I saw an exhibition of some of those David Hockney works, and one of the things he'd done was, when he was doing his digital drawing on the iPad, he recorded everything. And in this exhibition, they had them running as little movies. And it was a real revelation of how you construct a drawing. And when at that stage, I was an art teacher, and I showed my students, you know, because they're always wanting to know, you know, they don't always understand how to build up the layers of a work of art. And those little movies that David Hockney had made recording his process were revelatory. They were fantastic. Yeah.
I've seen those, and they're absolutely right. It's beautiful to see his thought process, because you see him coming right on and you think, oh, that is fabulous. And then he comes right in there and starts laying a color on top. And at first you think, oh, no, where's that going? But you see in the end, it's fabulous, you know, and yeah. We're blessed to be able to live a creative life. I've always said to most people, the creative life, you're firing on all synapses, your mind, you're thinking about what you want to do, you're pursuing that, what materials you need to accomplish it. And so it's a great joy.
Yeah, it is, but it's a choice. It's a choice. I mean, um, people can be creative in any way, in any way they want, all sorts of ways, whatever they choose. To be, because that's who we are. We're just made that way.
I also think of the soul as a creative force through the process of meditation, and that the soul itself through meditation becomes has a kind of radiation about it, and that it can sort of express certain energies and qualities, like the soul qualities of love and compassion and goodwill, and that through meditation that the soul expression becomes more direct through the instrument of the human being, and that that part of it's sort of like the soul being the bridge between the material world and the spiritual world. It can manifest these sorts of energies like love and so on, and it can radiate that, and it sort of creates that through meditation, or perhaps another way is through the use of a mantra. I've got one here that I particularly like. In the center of all love I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. I see the use of that mantra and meditation as a creative process. And it's not necessarily that you're creating an artwork, but perhaps you will, but that you're using energy in a creative way. And that is radiated outwards. It's interesting, when I read a mantra like that, what I find is that for the rest of the day or days, I just keep hearing, in the center of all love I stand, in the center of all love I stand. I mean, that process to me is a very creative process, because it's creating. It's really hard to describe, actually. I'm not an esotericist, so I don't have all the language at my fingertips, but I am aware of it. I can feel what it's doing, and it's sort of radiating that outwards. And I do think, that contributes to the world in a subtle way. So I think the soul is a creative instrument in that way as well. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm
No,
just
it does.
aware of
It
that
does.
as well.
Yeah. Well, when I was listening to you, I was thinking how when I meditate, I open myself up to my higher self, and to let any higher knowledge come through. And it's like I stop and I just listen. I just be. And I carry that when I'm in uh, a high state, when I'm doing artwork, when I'm painting. When I say I'm in a high state, I'm in a very conscious state. Then I'm allowing. I'm get myself out of the way, and I'm allowing whatever to come through that will, make the work go forward. I'm not like thinking about it. It's just coming through because I've given myself over to be used. Oh, that's another thing. This thing of being used by the soul, being used by the play, used by the music. It's being an instrument is allowing oneself to be played on by something else, a musician, um, and this feeling of openness, of allowing something else to come in. Now, as a personality, you would not allow this, because when I'm a personality, I need to express myself. This is me, and you're not gonna, nobody's gonna tell me what to do. Personalities are great, but and they're also great to watch, and they're fun. But in order to do the it's funny, I know, but in order to do the kind of work I wanted to do, I had to, it's like you have to let go of the self and allow something else to come through, something higher. And I knew I had it. I think we all know we have something higher, but it does, let's face it, it takes some courage to get yourself out of the way and allow something else to come in, when but it's not so hard if you know there's something higher, your higher self, the soul, you know.
Yes, I would like to thank you, Leslie, for bringing that word in, meditation. I feel that it is, I think that's what I was trying to say. I feel myself in a meditative state when I am working, and I go to that feeling of openness, and I think in meditation really is one of the most creative. And we're talking really here about trying to move energy, and we're all discussing where that energy comes from, or how we manipulate it or work with it. And we can take it down into the material world and be trying to express it, or in the digital world, which is light and things. But it is all really about that, trying to say something and feel where it's coming from. And Holly, your work with the memes, and watching and working with you over the years, I have seen such the way you have developed the digital field. And working with the memes, you start with the language, usually the language that you're working with. Does that language and what's being said inspire you to find the imagery that you work with? Or?
Um, For me, the idea of going into a meditative state fits really well with what I feel that happens. And it's taken time for me to coordinate all of the different elements that I'm working with, because I do start with text. And like Leslie said, when you're working with digital art, it's a little bit differently. You have to go out and find what you need and bring it back. And then you go through this process of synthesis, where you're trying to blend an idea based upon words that you're reading, and so that you can bring it into the view of others in a meaningful way. And yeah, so I tend to disappear from myself, and that's kind of what I mean by meditation. I fall way into the background, and I lose complete track of time. I have worked for 7, 8 hours straight and not even realized it. Sometimes even longer. Yeah, and I just keep going. And I'm not thinking, it's just all happening through me. So that's how I experience it. So yeah.
And do you get a sort of feeling like you might have done something, you've created something, but you just know it's not quite there yet? It's almost a kinesthetic feeling. And you just think,
Yeah.
what could that be? And then sometimes, well, I might need to walk away from it and then come back to it and look at it after a couple of hours, and you think, just change that typeface a little bit, or it just needs a little bit of something up there. And it's just that you just get that feeling, don't you? And the soul's still talking to you about, come on, we can just tweak this and really make this effective, more effective.
Yeah.
Yay, there we have it. There we have it. It is that magic. We open ourselves and it pours through. Not all the time, but definitely having to walk away from something and come back later when it's not. But I never have any concern about painting over something or recording over something. You can always do that. You can always change. And so it's a fluid thing. Yeah. Fantastic.
Right, right. Well, thank you for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thank you.